Hello lovelies, how are you all doing today? I hope you are well. I'm okay. Absolutely, I'm flagging today actually, I'm a bit wiped out. It's been a bit of a, it's been a bit of a stressy few days. Yes, I know I live in a lovely home and in a lovely town by a lovely beach, but that doesn't mean life isn't a bit stressful at times. So, had a nice swim this morning. I was dry enough to go back up. Yeah, it's sort of, whilst I was in the water, all my troubles melted away. That's brilliant. But then it's like, you get out of the water and you head back home and it's like, oh yeah, I've got all that stuff to deal with. Anyway, I definitely feel better for having been in the water. Talking of the water, there's something about that coming up. Look, today I thought I'm supposed to be standing up and cooking with you, but I am so, it's like I slept without putting the charger in last night. I slept unplugged, so I woke up this morning, the battery is completely flat. I am going to talk about a recipe. It's one of my previously done recipes, but with a slight tweak because of losing weight. Also, what I'm going to do with you, I've got my calculator handy. This is from my ex-nursing days, and one of my nurse chums stuck that in the lid one day. I was having a bad day at work and my calculator was left in the drug room. I'd been making up drugs. I'd gone to administer to my patient. I came back, that was sitting there, and then next time I came to use it, I took the lid off. It's like, oh, little smiley. Thank you, Linny. The calculator is out because I want to talk today, and I'll try and do it sort of briefly. I want to talk about this whole calorie counting business because there has been some calorie counting. However, I want to show you what I've done to make it really, really super simple for myself, so that I'm not counting calories every day, which seems to sort of contradict how I'm going about losing weight. So essentially my weight loss is to do with a couple of foods that I'm no longer having. I'll do the detail on this when we come to it in a second. I want to do something else first. But yes, it's cutting out a couple of things, but then essentially the rest of it is all about being in calorie deficit each day. In other words, I consume less calories each day than my body uses up, both in my basic metabolism, as in the metabolism that even if I was laying down, I would still be metabolizing to stay alive, and then extra calories that I use up by being active each day. So I thought, because I'm going to do this recipe that has a tweak anyway, and because I haven't made this since I started losing weight, I need to do this for myself. Anyway, so we'll come on to that in a second. With the tweak, I'll talk you through the recipe and a couple of things to look out for. It's a summer harvest recipe, but it's something that I then lay down for the winter. But just before we get into that, I wanted to share quickly with you a book. So in that last video you saw, I read The Swordfish and the Star about life on the Cornish coast, and at the same time as picking that up, I was thinking, oh, maybe I'll read Malice of the Waves. This is the one that Paul gave to me. So I'd started it, I think I was about 10 pages in. I wasn't in the mood for reading, but I'd started it just before their visit. They arrived and he brought another one by the same author, The Woman Who Walked into the Sea. So it's Mark Douglas, it's either Douglas Home or Douglas Hume, I'm not sure how it's pronounced, but Mark Douglas Hume. So when Paul said, read this as well, I said, is there an order to read them, and do you need to read them in sequence? And I don't think you have to read them in sequence. However, this is the second book he wrote and this is the third book. So I thought, you know what, because I'm only 10 pages in, I'll dump that, I'll pick this one up. I read it. It was a really quick read, and the reason I'm going to mention it now is I think it's a fantastic holiday read. Not necessarily a summer holiday, but rainy day curled up in a cosy cottage somewhere read. I'll explain why. So, like I said, it's probably a 6 to 7 hour read. So an hour in bed at night for a week, or in a day if you're penned in because of the weather. Simply, the central character of his books is a guy called Cal McGill. He is an oceanographer who has sort of become nicknamed the Sea Detective because he looks specifically at tides and currents and wind. He sort of looks for things that get lost at sea by calculating tides, currents, winds, etc. So things lost at sea might be a cargo over the side of a ship, but it has become increasingly for him about finding bodies. So they are mystery books. This one describes it as within the crime fighting canon. Is he a crime fighter, or is he just part of a puzzle that he's part of the puzzle? He's not a detective. He's not an actual detective. He's an oceanographer. So I read The Woman Who Walked Into the Sea, gobbled it up in 2 nights. What a page turner, great fun. A lot of, how to describe it? A young woman, she's 26 or so. I'm not giving anything away with this, by the way, because this is all set out quite early in the book. So a young 26-year-old woman who knows she was adopted from birth gets a rather mysterious anonymous letter it's sent to the social services, and it comes back to her, that says, your mother, your birth mother, her name was ... and she lived at ... address. So our protagonist, Violet, goes off to this town to see if she can find out more about her mother and possibly even her father. The town she goes to is a very isolated town. Is it more of a village? Right up on the far northwest coast of Scotland. There's mappage. You know I love a book with a map. So this is the border with England. So this is all Scotland, for those who aren't very familiar with Scotland. So it's right up here going towards the Hebrides. So it's an incredibly isolated place. So off she goes in search of her history. Meanwhile, Cal, our sea detective, he's also there. Did it say initially why he's gone there? But he's gone there. So they're going to be our 2 main characters. There's something of the book which reminded me a bit of an Enid Blyton book. It's not a book written for children, though I think a 12, 13-year-old would, if I was 12-year-old me, would devour this in one sitting. When I say Enid Blyton, I mean because it's a series of clues. She gets one clue, and that leads to another clue, and then another clue, and eventually, obviously, our 2 protagonists, their paths cross. So they're going to start working on the mystery together. So that's what I mean. It's a bit Enid Blyton, a bit sort of Secret 7 on an adventure finding clues. There's also something of there's a little bit of something is it spooky? There's certainly an ominous feeling to it, and I think that's because of the isolation of this village. This is a small place where everybody knows everyone else, and obviously within hours of this young woman's arrival, everybody knows that there's a stranger in town, and also him, the young detective. I think he's aged 29 in the book and she's 26, so they're young people. So tongues are wagging, it spreads like wildfire. Who are these people? What are they doing here? And we get the sense that, we also find out really early on, this is the title reference, that the woman who walked into the sea was this girl's mother. She walks into the sea, she's never seen again. So there is that sort of almost Wicker Man thing of an isolated community. What happened to this woman? Why did she disappear? We've got a mystery on our hands, great. But that kind of ominous, sort of almost spooky thing, a little bit like Rebecca, Daphne du Maurier's Rebecca. There's always that element of foreboding. There's something deeply wrong here. I found at least the sort of first third, maybe even getting on for half of the book, there was a lot of time I got ahead of the book. I knew what was coming, I knew what was happening. And I don't mean that in a braggy way of, oh, aren't I smart, I know what's happening. I just mean it's easy to guess, what's about to happen. I didn't mind though, because it kept the pages turning, because I wanted the book to catch up with me, because like, yeah, I'm there already, come on book, catch up. And then the book would catch up with me, and then the book would go ahead a little bit, and I'd be going along with the book, and then I'd suddenly leap forward again, making these sort of, oh yes, I guessed that, and I guessed that. And like I say, that doesn't detract from it. It definitely kept the pages turning. And there was a point, maybe about a third to a half of the way through, when I thought, we need something to happen. We need a change of direction. We need a shock. We need, what did I say? Oh, we need a twist. We need a surprise. We need something else. We need another card on the table. And great timing of that happened. Something happened. It was at the end of my first night of reading, so it was about halfway through the book. I thought, yeah, we need something. And then the next night I picked it up and it's like, good, something happened. So I'd say yes, it's definitely a page turner. It's not. There are a couple of small moments of actually a sort of modern violence that I don't normally like, but they were it was sort of short and sweet, as it were. But otherwise, it's not. There's nothing graphic. There's nothing sort of too nasty in it. There's just that sense of all these people in the village that she meets and he meets. Are they what they seem on the surface? This woman seems friendly and chatty. This man seems friendly and chatty. Are they genuinely friendly and chatty, or are they really scary? What's going on? Who can I trust? That's her thing. Who can she trust? And even our detective, he's not a detective, the oceanographer, who can he trust? So yeah, they join forces and sort of work on the mystery together. And the ending, obviously I'm not going to give anything away. The ending was, I was half there with the ending, half there. One half of it I hadn't seen coming at all, didn't get it at all. So yeah, really enjoyed it, and I've now come back to Malice at the Waves, his third book. I think there's a fourth book. I think Paul mentioned there's a fourth book. Let's see now. Oh, it's not written down. So his first book, The Sea Detective. Second book is The Woman Who Walked into the Sea, and I just thought how appropriate, because I've now walked into the sea. The third book, Malice of Waves, and I think there's a fourth. I mentioned holiday reading. I just don't think, so a lot of it is set on the beaches up there, and you can just picture them. Anyone who's ever been to sort of Scotland, or even say Northumberland, with those great long, beautiful white sandy beaches that are freezing cold. So there's a lot of time is spent on beaches and exploring, beachcombing, and gathering flotsam. So not necessarily a summer read, but I could imagine if you're away in the autumn at some point, especially, or the winter, you're away in a little cottage, somewhere isolated. Maybe you've rented a cottage for the week in the middle of nowhere, and you get a day when the weather is foul, it's lashing rain, it's blowing a hoolie, so you just want to stay hunkered down in your cottage. Or this would work even if you weren't at home but had a day off, if you're having a staycation, as in you're staying at home. Foul weather, but you're cosy at home, you've got enough to eat, you've got nice things to drink, you're snug, and then you curl up with this. I can almost guarantee you won't put it down. I would have loved to have read it in one session, however, I did have to go to sleep at some point. So yeah, highly recommend it. I will let you know with this one whether it is necessary to read them in order. So far, it doesn't seem like I need to read it in order, but yeah, look out for them in charity shops. Paul said they're quite hard to come by. I think he was saying even the library, there's a long waiting list to get them at the library, but maybe your library wouldn't have a list. So there we go, a bit of Enid Blyton and Rebecca du Maurier in a modern mystery set up on a wild beach in the northwest of Scotland. Right, now let's get on with this food and this calorie calculating thing. I need a pen because we're going to do some maths. Don't be scared. I'm going to show you a really easy way of doing it. Well, I hope it's going to be easy. So the meal I'm going to make in a minute, I'm going to make soup. I'm going to make my very much enjoyed courgette and, well, normally it would be courgette and potato soup. So I'm going to quickly go through the ingredients because this is a tweak. So I've got my courgette, and I'm going to talk about the courgettes and their stages in a second. I've got basically 2 parts courgette to 1 part potato. So if this weighed a kilo, I would use 500 grams of potato. This weighs a little over 600 grams. So this, I weighed this already. This is 375. So I might nick a smaller courgette to go with it. So whatever the potato weighs, double up for the courgette, or put it this way, if you've got a big courgette, whatever the courgette weighs, half it and use that in potato. This, though, is not potato. This is swede. So, I've mentioned a few times now, it's just come out of the fridge, that's why it's a bit sweaty. I love it when I'm making soup and the veg is already chopped. That's chopped because a couple of nights ago I made another batch of fasolada, live on fasolada. So I use swede instead of potato now in my fasolada. So, you know by now that I quit sugar and I quit bread. Although not forever and ever and ever. I've had an occasional ice cream and I had a piece of bread while the chaps were down. But the other thing I'd forgot to mention was potato. I forgot to mention it mainly because I really don't eat very much potato at all. I mean, I don't think I ever cook it as a side veg. I do use it in soups for that sort of thickening component. What else? And in the fasolada, but otherwise I hardly use potatoes at all, which is why I've completely forgotten to mention it. But I have quit potatoes as well. Now, just for instance, in this recipe, so I weighed these, there's 375 grams there. I'm going to quickly do the calories with you and then we're going to come to the notebook, the calculator and how I'm doing it. But that is 135 calories. If that was potato, it would be 290, nearly 290. So it's more than double. So potatoes are more than double the calories of swede. That's what you call rutabaga in America, isn't it? Before anyone asks, rutabaga. So not only are the potatoes double the calories, they have a higher glycemic index. You might have heard of that as well. It's going to push the blood sugar spike a bit higher after eating. And that was the one thing that I wanted to do with my new way of eating. So it's pretty much all my old foods, but the new way of eating is to cut out those things which would cause the spikes. So, yeah, so that's the only tweak, but otherwise I'll put the recipe card on the end so you've got it and you can have a look at the recipe itself. It's also, it would be an onion, but the onions that have arrived have come really small, so I'm going to use 2 small onions. Some garlic, the garlic is in there. I'll probably use, I'd use 3 fat cloves, but these are all really skinny cloves now, so it might be 6 skinny cloves. Onions and garlic, basis for pretty much any soup. Get those sautéed off for, 7 or 8 minutes, possibly a little longer, until they go translucent. They're starting to release their juices, smell gorgeous. They're not going to catch, you're not burning them, you're not caramelising them, just soften them so they're not raw in the soup. And then it's literally 1 courgette, however big. I've got a slightly bigger one. Chop it into chunks. chop the equivalent of half the weight of that in a potato or swede into chunks, chuck them into a litre, with a litre of, what's it called, stock. And then I also put cardamom, so these are cardamom pods. So I would crack open 3 or 4 cardamom pods, grind the seeds inside and put that in. These give it a lovely sort of, it's almost zesty. It's almost, some people say it's like apple, some people say lemon, some people sort of mix like, oh, it's just citrus. But it gives it a bit of zing and it just gives it a bit of warmth underneath. When it's all cooked, once those veg go in with the stock, maybe you might simmer it for 20 minutes. Once it's all cooked, I blitz it smooth. I'm going to come on to the blitzing in a minute because talking about the size. Blitz it all smooth. It's gorgeous. You can, if you want to be a bit luxe, once it's all blitzed, you can grate some cheese into it, either some cheddar or if you've got a little bit of leftover blue cheese, because blue cheese goes a long way, crumble the blue cheese into it as you re-warm it before serving to melt that cheese into it. It's gorgeous. I love it. It's a real staple for me in the winter. But like I said, let's just before talk about the calories. So my courgettes are going mad. It's always the way, isn't it? Check yours. So literally about 5 days or so ago, these two were normal size, so I left them because I knew I'd already picked a couple to make 2 portions with today. In the space of 4 days, 2 normal size courgettes have turned into marrows. Now the thing is, when they get big, you can still use them for this soup, don't despair. But what I do the fingernail test. Because as they get bigger and older on the plant, the skins actually start to cure, which is, you know, what we'd expect from our winter squash. We leave them on the vine as long as possible so that they cure. In other words, the skin goes hard, and that becomes the sort of the packaging to keep them and store them for use through the winter, right into next spring and next summer. So courgettes will do the same the longer you leave them. I've had courgettes stored in my shed over winter as well because the skins are cured. Of course, you don't then want to eat that skin in your soup. I have tried it. It was like having loads of little shards of plastic in the soup. It's so hard. It was awful. If you do that, don't worry. I just passed it all through a sieve to sieve out those nasty little shards. But yeah, I quite often give it the fingernail test. My fingernail will make a bit of a dent in it, but it's not pushing straight through the flesh. So these will get peeled. I prefer to get my courgettes smaller, and like this one, the skin is definitely going in, it's much softer. I prefer to get them smaller. This is about the biggest, purely because I want to eat the skin, because there's tons of goodness in it as well. So do try to get your courgettes at a smaller size for this recipe where you're going to eat the skin as well. Good for us. Do try, but if you miss a few and you end up with marrows with a tough skin, I mean, I could leave that on the plant and on the plant and on the plant. It would discourage it from putting out any new fruits, so get it off to encourage the plant to keep producing. But I can leave this out now. This skin will continue to cure to such a stage that will get hard enough for me to pop it in the shed over winter. I'm not going to, though, I'm going to get it cooked. So that's, you know, that's the recipe, sort of. Like I said, I'll put the card on the end to show you properly. But back to this calorie counting thing, and as I was mentioning in that video a few weeks ago, it's all very well if you buy, I'm trying to find pages of notes to show you. It's all very well if you buy, if you're buying ready-made food, you know, soup in a tin can, fresh soup in a carton. It will tell you the calories on the outside. The whole point of this way of eating for me is I did not want to be counting calories every day, and I did not want to be cooking from scratch every day and measuring everything. I ain't got time for that faff. Who has? Life's too short and too precious to be messing around with scales and doing all that nonsense. I am not a slave to my eating. I want to get my food cooked, I want to get it eaten, and I want to get on with the thing I was doing that was great fun, that was interrupted because it was meal time. So this is what I did for myself. at the beginning of the year, and I'm now doing for odd bits and bobs of recipes that I haven't made yet, but I'm making again. So I did it with my carrot and lentil soup as well. I had some carrots left over, I had some celery left over. I always have red lentils in stock, so I thought, oh, you know, I'll make carrot and lentil soup. So what I did was, I've done the same, this will be 6 portions. I haven't written the courgette amount in here yet, that's what we'll do together. But with the carrot and lentil, it's writing down every single ingredient in the soup. I did it on scruffy paper, I've just made it neater to share with you. So I did every single ingredient, 1 teaspoon of oil, an onion, garlic times 3 cloves, carrots, and I've said roughly 300 grams, and that's the beauty of this is, I've worked out that my carrot and lentil is about 182 calories per portion. It's quite high for a soup, but it's because it's got lentils in it, so it's more than just, you know, it's more than just, say, tomato soup. But the reason I've said circa about for myself is I know that 3 medium-sized carrots are going to weigh about 300 grams. But one day I might be using 4 slightly smaller carrots or 5 even smaller carrots. And this is what I mean about I'm not weighing and measuring every day. I'm not that worried. I just want a rough idea of what's going in. So the celery, I always use 3-ish, big-ish stalks. If the stalks are skinny, I might use 4. If the stalks are really big, I might use 2. But it's going to be about 200 grams. My red lentils, that's always 200 grams. I do measure that out, like I always have done, nothing to do with losing weight. I've always measured out 200 grams, there we go. The herbs, I don't count. So I know, so that's my whole recipe written out. Now what I did at the beginning of the year, and this is what you may need to do for yourself too, is if you're just starting out, I created a little directory for myself. So this is a page of, this is some sort of basic veggies that I use all the time. And this is, as it says at the top, this is per 100 grams of that veg, unless otherwise stated. So for instance, with an onion, we usually use an onion, don't we? We don't think in terms of 100 grams or 150, whatever. So I've written down the values for all the obvious ones, you know, garlic, tomatoes, celery, carrots, courgette, cabbage, cucumber, leek, all sorts. So the number next to it is for 100 grams of that vegetable. But I also have other useful, this is a really useful page. So this is, I have to read it now, it's been a while since I wrote it out. I'm not trying to cover anything with this thing, I'm just trying to hold the page so it doesn't flap. So I've got things like, I've got cashews, nuts, mixed seeds, prunes, porridge oats, a litre of stock, half a cup of oat milk, pasta, rice, risotto rice, red lentils, green lentils, quinoa, olive oil. So with all of these, again, I worked out what it was for 100 grams, but then if you remember, I then put things into the cups, so I didn't have to weigh every time. So it's like, oh, okay, so if I have a portion of pasta, I know it's 1 cup. 1 cup of pasta equates to 50 grams. Olive oil. I've done it for 100 mils, thought I'm never going to use 100 mils of olive oil, so what is it for a tablespoon? Because that's how we cook, isn't it? We cook with a tablespoon of oil. Well, I used to always cook with a glug, but now I do measure it. So I know that if I've got a tablespoon of olive oil in a recipe, it's 120. So having done this research, there's some fruit there, there's some of the cheeses, vegetables, some of the different beans, their values. Actually, the beans is easier when you're buying the tinned ones because it will say, but obviously if you do it from dried. And then there's a little page with my recipes as I was cooking things and working it out. So, like I said, if you're on this, if you want to do a similar thing, that's what I mean about having your research time, so that, for example, let me bring that page back. You can sit with the computer and your notebook and just write down a whole list of the veggies, type into the computer how many calories in 100 grams of ... whichever vegetable. Write them all down, and then I never have to look it up again, it's my ready reckoner. So coming back to the recipe, I've written it all out and I've got it's approximately 300. So then obviously carrots are, 41 calories for 100. So 3 times 41, use a calculator. Don't be worried about using a calculator if your mental arithmetic isn't all that. I know that that's 123. So eventually, and like I said, there's a tablespoon of olive oil. Well, we know from the book that I wrote in there last January, beginning of January, 120 calories. Great, I've got it all. Garlic, I'm having 3 cloves. I know that they're 4 calories a clove, medium-sized cloves, so it's going to be 12. Got them all written down, add them up. That whole pot of soup, it gives me 1,095 calories. Divide it into 6 portions. I know it's 182 and a half. Don't worry about the half, 182. If I've divided it into 4 portions, that's going to be 275 per bowl. It's too much. The point I'm trying to make with this is it's 182 on that day. Another day that I make it, it might be 185, it might be 180, it might be 190, it might be 175 because it might have just, a bit less. I might have accidentally put a little bit less of the lentils in, or slightly under a tablespoon of oil, or I might have splushed and done a little bit more oil or whatever it is. But I know from now on, and that this can now transfer into here where I've got my own recipes, and there's my chilli and so on and so forth. I know that every time I have a bowl of carrot and lentil soup, I might even say 180, never mind 182 and a half, it's roughly 180. So the way I plan my day is, I know that breakfast is around 350, lunch is around 350, supper is around 350, that gives me 1050, and then up to about 350 in snacks. And it's really as simple as that. So that for lunch, I know that soup, so for example, soup and some yogurt and berries and another piece of fruit is going to come to about 350 calories. Some days it might only come to 290, other days it might come to 370 or 80. I'm not bothered because I know that over the course of a week, for instance, some of those lunches would have been up a bit, some of them would have been down a bit, and that's what I mean about not getting hung up on weighing and measuring and all the numbers. Across my repertoire of foods, I know that whatever I pick for lunch in that kind of combination is going to be about 350. And I know that the vast majority of my suppers, the suppers I make are about 250 calories, so I can add another 100 in by having yogurt. My exception to that though is my pasta night, because pasta night is 390, it goes, ooh. And all that means is I might not have pudding after I've had pasta. Pudding is usually fruit or yogurt and fruit or whatever it is. But then throughout the course of the day with the snacks, again, I know, for instance, I know that probably my day is going to entail an apple, a couple of satsumas, a portion of my seeds. So a portion of seeds is 52, it's a quarter cup. And again, I'm not weighing the seeds. I'm literally with my quarter cup scoop going into the jar of seeds, scooping it out, putting that into a little bowl. I can sit there and nibble on them as I'm reading my book in the evening. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. I hope it's an encouragement to any of you who have perhaps, sorry, excuse me, I need some more water. You may in the past have tried counting calories. But like I said, nobody's got the time for that. We're all busy working people. Well, a lot of us are. We're busy, we're working. There's always so much to be getting on with each day. I mean, look, I know some of you cook everything from scratch as well. I know some of you don't, whatever. But for those of us who cook from scratch every single day, we're busy enough just doing the cooking and getting food on the table, never mind weighing and measuring and counting and all of that every day as well. If you were trying to do that every day, that's a surefire way to either A, give up, or B, give up scratch cooking and just start buying processed food because it's easier, because you can see the label. You know, I think probably every supermarket has a range of ready meals that are calorie counted for you, but then you're eating highly processed, a lot of the time, junk. So I think as an investment in yourself, and I think it's about the best investment any of us can ever make is when we invest in our health, it's worth spending a weekend, even a week, maybe you've got a week's holiday coming up, have fun in the kitchen and do this, is get your lists of what 100 grams of each veg, each fruit, those things you eat, rice, pasta, oil, all like the things I just showed you in my little book. Find out what the calorie content is, go through your own recipes, start making your own recipes, but just for a week, weigh everything out to work out what the calories are. So for instance, my fasolada, I can't remember off the top of my head. You see, this is what I mean. Once I'd worked it all out and I realised just do it all in rotation. So my fasolada without any cheese sprinkled on the top and with a swede, not a potato, one portion is 222 calories. And I know that a 30-gram portion of cheese is 120 without even thinking about it. So I know that fasolada with my daily portion of cheese on the top is 344 calories. So even with cheese on top, that still comes within my 350 per meal. I've still then got calories left over for snacks. Yay! Spend that time, work for your own recipes. So what I didn't do is work out my courgette. So let's do that one together. What was the courgette? So I reckon this is going to be 600 grams of courgette. Oh, I've written down here. So 600 grams of courgette. 100 grams of courgette is 16. So we'll start with, we know that it's 16 per 100. I'm using 600, so that's 6 times 100 grams. So that's 6 times. So that's 96 calories worth of courgettes. So, delete all that. So I'm using 1 tablespoon of oil, that's 120. So that's 120, that's the oil. And 1 onion at 44. And 3 cloves of garlic is 12, plus the 600 grams of courgettes is 96. I don't know if the light's rubbish, it's 96. And add the 375-ish grams of swede is 135 equals, and a litre of stock is about 60. So that's 467. Now, I'll get 6 portions out of it, so it's 467 for the whole pan's worth. Let's divide that by 6 portions. That gives me, what does it say? 77.83. Call it 78. I'm going to call it 80 calories. That sounds too low. I want to check my maths. What have I included? It's just courgettes, and courgettes are very watery. And the swede. Let me just check the swede. I've got 300, so swede, yeah, that's right. Well, there we go, that's a, whoopla, that is a really low calorie soup. It's going to be 80 calories a portion. But here's the thing, I could grate onto the top of that half of my cheese allowance for the day. It's not a cheese allowance, but I just don't want to have more than 30 grams a day. Some days let's have no cheese. But if I wanted half of that small block, that would add 60. So that would give me 140 calories for my soup for lunch, which would mean I'd still have 210 calories left over. I could have pudding and a snack at lunchtime. Fab. So that's the way I have done it. That's the way I am doing it. And now that I've done that, and that didn't take me long at all. I just wrote down everything I'm going to use and how much. Multiplied, if it's 100 grams, multiplied by however many grams I'm using in the recipe to get my grand figure. Divided by the number of portions, and I know that now when I make my version of courgette and swede soup, not potato. Don't forget the potatoes would have more than doubled that bit of... I'll tell you what it would have been if I'd done it with potatoes, in case any of you want it with potatoes. And also some of you may think that that's quite a mean portion, it wouldn't be enough for you. Fine, you know, have a bigger portion. So that's 622, divide it by 6 portions, we said. Right, so that's interesting. So I rounded that up. So with swede, it's going to give me 80 calories a bowl. With potato, it would have been 105. It's only 25 calories, but they all add up. And it's more about that glycemic index of potatoes being higher. I really hope that's helped people to understand how I'm doing this. Someone in comments the other day said, oh, are you using Ozempic or Mizano, whatever it's called? It's like neither. Firstly, let me just say about these injections. This medicine was invented for people with diabetes. We shouldn't be using it. Let people with diabetes use it. And B, if people really do need it for weight loss, I would have, to get those injections, I would have had to weigh, I worked it out after that comment came in, I would have had to weigh over 20 stones to qualify. I was nowhere near over 20 stones. I was nowhere near 20 stones. Are you kidding me? Plus, I don't have any one of those 5 comorbidities, which I didn't know what they were. I had to look them up. I can't remember what. It's like apnea and diabetes and I can't remember what the others are, but none of them. No, this is just losing weight by being a little bit smaller with the portions and making a couple of swaps, things like swede instead of potato, and the complete omission of sugar and bread most of the time. The vast majority of the time, those things are not in my diet, but for a very occasional treat. And when I say occasional treat, I'm talking, you know, once in maybe 3-4 months. Some things it might be only once in a year, like having a bag of chips. That might be a twice-a-year event. Anyway, there we go. I hope that's helped. I hope that's made it clear what I'm doing, and B, just how easy it is. Do this work for a few days right at the beginning of your journey, my weight loss journey. Do this right at the beginning and then calculate it for your own recipes, as I've done. Like I said, there's a couple of pages of them here. My recipes, jotted down the side what the calorie equivalent was. And now I rarely look at this. I've only pulled it out because 2 recipes that I haven't made since I started doing this with the carrot and lentil, courgette and swede. So I thought, oh, I need to do the calorie calculation. Now that it's done, I won't keep this piece of paper. Literally those 2 individual little numbers will go in here and I'll never have to think about it again. All I'll think about is knowing that when it's courgette soup for lunch, that's quite low in calories, so I can have a bit of cheese on it. Or I might do something like, I might have a couple of oat cakes with it, because quite often with the soup I don't have anything with it, but a couple of oat cakes, that's fine, because I know it's going to be roughly 80 calories. Might be 78 one day when I make it, it might be 85 one day when I make it, but I ain't bothered about those little itty bitty bits of numbers. Give it a go, see how you do. You know, I was going to say it's been a breeze. It hasn't been a breeze all the time. It's been the numbers bit, the calorie counting has been a breeze because I'm not counting calories, if that makes sense. That bit's been a breeze. What hasn't been a breeze is every now and again having a craving. But I think I mentioned this before as well. Even before I started specifically trying to lose weight, throughout my life I've had food cravings. There's always moments in life where you think, oh, I really fancy a slice of Arctic roll with extra raspberry sauce on it. It comes from nowhere, you just suddenly fancy something. So it is easy in terms of the numbers, but it's not easy in terms of every now and again I fancy, I've said Arctic roll now I want some. Well, on that thought, I'm going to love you and leave you all. Hope you all are well. Those of you who've been poorly, I hope you're getting better. I know there's been quite a few injuries amongst you. Yeah, Please heal well, everybody. And if you are stuck in a position where you're not ambulatory, if you're having to be bed resting for whatever it is, I think you could do worse than a couple of Mark Douglas Home or Hume books. Certainly, this was a great yarn, a proper old-fashioned page turner. Enid Blyton for grown-ups, Secret 7 for grown-ups. See if you can get a copy from your library. Alright lovelies, I will see you all again really soon, but until then, yeah, look after yourselves, happy healing, get out into your gardens, do what you can when you can, enjoy life the best you can, and when you can't, when everything's getting too stressful, go for a swim. I want to go and have another swim. See you all soon. Cheerio.